obviously anybody can go to Lindell's TV network. You don't need Hal Sparks Mega Worldwide for that. You can go watch those clips by yourself and enjoy them. But I got to offer occasionally something exclusive, I would think. And how about this? An exclusive one-on-one with Rudy Giuliani in front of a Christmas tree with a woman who's suspiciously, but for the color, dressed similarly to the underage girl he hit on, tucking his mic into his pants in Borat while touching her on the ass and believing she was 15 years old. Yes, he joins Caitlin Sinclair to discuss the recent Twitter files. Let's hear it.
Former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani shares...
And stooge of the Russian and Chinese mobs and aiding them in brooming out the Italians so that they, these guys could take over.
His unique perspective on the Twitter files.
Yes. Yeah, very unique.
And the Hunter Biden laptop story.
Yes, and it is a story. Like the Grinch or any other made-up story.
One America's Caitlin Sinclair sat down with him to...
Poor girl.
Discuss. Take a look.
And be disgusted.
Mr. Giuliani, I remember being here with our amazing reporter, Chanel Rion.
Chanel. She just interviewed Trump, but only on the phone because he's too weirded out to sit in the same room with people right now. I swear to God, Trump is moving into his Howard Hughes peeing in mason jars, growing his fingernails phase.
About 2 years ago.
It was like, I remember it like it was yesterday, if yesterday was 2 years ago.
When you first...
Oh, thanks so much. I will hydrate. Thank you for redeeming the points. I'm drinking iced tea. At least I hope it is.
The news of the Hunter Biden laptop on OAN and it's explosive contents that...
It's explosive contents. Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know never mind. I almost went someplace and I don't need to go there. I don't need to do it.
That laptop. And in my...
Which, by the way, there is no laptop. Just for the record. Rudy bought that hard drive, brought it back from Ukraine. He bought it from Russians, which is a mix of hacked materials and faked materials. They slapped it together. And the hard drive that they've been shopping around has over 400 gigabytes of data. According to the book that I'm currently reading by John Paul McIsaac, the bullshit artist and creepy creep who memorizes the passwords of all of his customers at his Mac repair shop. Yikes. The hard drive that he copied was 256 gigabytes, and he was not able to get everything off of it. So where did the other 140 some odd gigs come from? Or 200, quite frankly, because there was less than the 256.
Bones. I remember feeling like this was about to be a watershed moment in American politics.
Yep, and turned out just to be another shitty October surprise that didn't go anywhere.
So, you've spent many years as a prosecutor in politics. In all your years, has this even exceeded this level of corruption, deceit?
No, never. The Gambardini family and the Frogaccio brothers and the Ferengiologis and the Caledoni family, pikers compared to Joe Biden and his 1.5 houses.
No, not even
close. Lean in.
Close. Mafia.
Not even close. Mafia. Yes, the Biden kill list is like fucking hell. I guess they just, is it a Democrat thing? Do you just like inherit the kill list from the Clintons and you just get their body count and any, you don't have to add anything to it. You just...
The cartels, the Colombian...
Cartels, yes. There's the Bidens and there's MS-13.
Cartels.
So this has been beyond
Islamic
anything.
terrorism.
Yeah, the Bidens are worse than Islamic terrorism because Tony Bobolinsky thought he could make some money selling access to Hunter's dad, and it never panned out. This is worse than ISIS. What the shit?
Colombian terrorism.
Colombian terrorism might be close.
Wall Street. the Democratic Party in New York City, which is about as corrupt as it can be.
Yes, there's ISIS, and then there's the DNC in New York. Honestly, what? Is there a certain? Isn't there a point where just hyperbole just dies? Aren't you just fucking embarrassed at a certain point? Why not actually just reach into like the great financial criminals? You know what I mean? Like just go with fucking Bernie Madoff and Enron. And oh, those are friends of yours. Sorry, that's why. See, because he can't actually reference giant financial criminals because he and Trump know them. And he can't bring up Epstein because he's on the flight logs.
No, nothing like this. It exceeds the mafia.
So Twitter
How? What mafia in the world is like, oh, we got a Kush deal as an investment broker for an oil and gas company. We get 3% of 10% of a Chinese investment into infrastructure in Europe and Africa, maybe, whether it pans out or not. And what else? $3 million from the mayor of Moscow's wife, that if you invest it and she makes money, you make 10% of the whatever if you grow the money at all, you get 10% of the profit, not of the actual amount. What? I'm sorry. I've seen The Godfather, and I think they would hope for more.
Files, part 6, 7, 8. We're learning information that the American people like yourself, have known for years.
Yeah.
Right. And we didn't give a shit. Yes, we knew Hunter was an addict. We knew he had problems with drugs. He was the black sheep of the family. We knew this during the Obama years. Nobody gave a fuck. Has nothing to do. He's an adult with his dad. He's an adult human being with his own issues who's been through multiple tragedies in his fucking life. We don't care. Addicts gonna addict, and you gotta understand, like Democrats, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong here, chat room, and I think some of you probably will, but most will go. When we make fun of like Junior's drug use, Don Jr., his obvious signs of drug use, none of us look at it from the point of view of an addict. And if we found out that he was an addict, or if Don Jr. went to rehab, there would be a sympathy for him, even as much of an asshole as he is, for his addiction. The reason we kind of shit on him for his use is because of his hedonistic bullshit. He just for his own pleasure, and he doesn't give a fuck. And somehow there's a difference between him and other people who use for pleasure. They're on a different scale, and he just looks down his nose at other users. Whereas with Hunter, he's literally been in and out of rehab. That phone call that was on, that was recorded from his phone and placed on the laptop. Holy shit. By the way, point of order, Mr. Chairman. In that John Paul McIsaac book that I'm reading, the emails that have his finances on them, that John Paul McIsaac saw and made him think there's criminality here, were in PDF form. Yeah. What? Why were they in PDF form? Why is there a printed PDF of supposedly the different financial deals that Hunter Biden has? Why is it in a screen cap PDF form? I'll tell you why. Because A, it doesn't have to be a real email, and B, there's no metadata that says when it was sent and from whom and when, and whether that was the actual content of the email. For fuck's sake, PDFs? Yeah, it was just goofy. There's so much in that is just hilariously garbage. But this is what this guy was peddling. This is what they set up. This is John Paul McIsaac allegedly reached out to Giuliani's attorney and gave him, a copy of the copy of the copy of the copy of the copy. And somehow it grew over 200 gigabytes of data while in Rudy's hands.
In fact, I learned about it because in the period of time that I had, I was only able to get through a third of it.
Yeah.
Over the last 2 years, I've gotten through the rest of it, and it's...
Show it. If you've gotten through, if he was only through a third of what was on the hard drive, he got through the rest of what was on the hard drive, and he's finally gotten through it. And what's he still doing? Showing a printout of text messages that says, "Hope you don't have to give half your money to Pop," and 10% for the big guy, which is an email from Tony Bobolinsky.
It's endless.
No, it isn't. You just said you finished it, fucko. It's not endless. It ended. It's over. Pack it up.
Sometimes I discover crimes 3 days ago.
Right. Right. And there's...
What do you mean, right? No, not right. He didn't discover a crime 3 fucking days ago. Why are you even having why are you sitting in front of a fucking Christmas tree and not a stack of documents? Why is there not a computer open with a traceable website that you can go, I'm referencing this file, which is in here, and you can see the metadata if you just open up the file, and there's a viewer for that, and we have it up on a screen in front of us. What crime? How does this pass for anything real? On and fucking on. It's been years of this horse shit.
There's other laptops we know.
Yeah. Well,
there's other laptops. There has to be, because there was nothing on that one.
Would constitute, I would think, generously half of what he had. Probably less. Because it
half of what he had as far as what?
Consumed about, it was his main laptop.
First of all, it was his main laptop. First of all, he allegedly came in with 3 laptops, all of them waterlogged. And he smelled like whiskey, and he stayed 8 feet away from the dude, and then signed the paper like you couldn't match it to a signature. And these are the people who are bringing you signature verification. And also, who's this person? Operating is that a Cyrillic keyboard? Is that Russian writing on top of that? So you got regular English and Cyrillic? Nice. Gee, weird that there would be
for about 7
keyboard with all right.
years. He still had 2 others.
Yes, totally typing something real. Totally. Tippity tappity tappity tap, tippity tap, criminy crime, criming, criming. I didn't realize Hunter had Trump-sized hands
during that period of time. But it leaves out everything in the first 2 years of his being vice president.
Right. So, Mayor, this week we also learned...
Wait, hold on.
Time. Probably less. It's endless. Sometimes I discover crimes 3 days ago.
Right. Right. And there's other laptops we know.
Yeah. But that would constitute, I would think, generously half of what he had. Probably less. Because it consumed...
I don't even know what the fuck that's supposed to be. Fuck.
It was his main laptop for about 7 years. He still had 2 others during that period of time.
You don't have any idea how many laptops he had or didn't have? There were 3 that were brought to the fucking shop. They were all soaked. What the fuck are you talking about?
But it leaves out everything in the first 2 years of his being vice president.
Right. So, Mayor, this week we also...
That was a weird edit.
...learned, and we actually have email proof that the FBI reimbursed Twitter $3.4 million to help the agency censor certain...
Government paid $200 million to censor info from the public. How the FBI and intelligence community discredit factually. Yeah, I still am looking for that. Reimbursing Twitter for work that it had done or something. I'm not abundantly clear in the Twitter files. If somebody could point out the part where they say exactly how much money was paid and when. I must have skimmed right past it because I couldn't find it.
Americans. Here's a direct quote. I am happy to report we've collected $3.4 million since October of 2019.
Wait, who was president in 2019?
This is from an associate of Jim Baker in early 2021.
So? For what? I mean, there's a myriad of things the FBI could pay a company to do, especially if you're tracking, like criminals, and you're paying for advertising, or the government itself is paying for advertising.
I mean, how damning is this for the American people to actually
Not at all.
learn and have email copies and proof of now?
Well, it makes it worse, if it's possible, that the FBI did this to me.
To you.
Because I love the FBI.
No, you don't. You love what the FBI would do for you if you thought you could weaponize it on your own political behalf.
I don't mean I mean love.
Yeah, wait, yeah, it was a 7-year-old laptop. Exactly, Alyosha. Nonsense. And by the way, I looked up the serial number that was on the subpoena or the receipt that the FBI allegedly gave to John Paul McIsaac doesn't register. Now, Apple may have, put a block on it or something, but it doesn't show up as an actual Apple laptop. That serial number doesn't show up as real.
5-6 years ago, I got the award from the FBI Former Agents Association, all of whom, by the way, are still heroes, because the former agents would never have allowed this. Never, ever.
Well, maybe that's why some of them are former agents, because they would rather run interference for you and for Trump.
For my lifetime achievement for prosecuting the most significant cases the FBI ever prosecuted.
Wow.
All those cases that I'm so famous for, I did with the FBI. I mean, we broke up.
Of course you did. What do you mean you did with the FBI? The FBI dealt with financial crimes in New York because New York is linked throughout the entire fucking country and the world.
I had tremendous
with
respect
the FBI,
for the agency.
The FBI are the ones who wired the mafia all over New York,
Right.
Sometimes at risk to their lives. The FBI went undercover. We know the famous cases they've been moving.
Right. Yes, we understand. They did the hard work. By the way, they're still doing that same shit right now. And this motherfucker wants their funding taken away because they dared go after his buddy Trump.
Joe Piston.
So what's happened to the agency? And why?
Yeah, what happened? Did they just stop going after criminals and just decide to pick on people who were just tourists on January 6th?
Why do Americans have no trust?
It's the same.
Why do Americans have no trust? Well, I would argue the depth of Americanism of MAGAts is in question.
Thing that happened to the Democrat Party, it rotted at the top. Most Democrats are the most decent people in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he doesn't mean me.
Most agents are some of the best people we have in America.
That's not true. I think he means FBI agents, but I've met a lot of agents in Hollywood, and I'm just going to say no.
It's rotten at the top.
So
Rotten at the top. So it's all Joe Biden. He's just a big criminal, and this is a huge, he's just like Putin. He's got $200 billion stashed somewhere that he pilfered from Iraq and Afghanistan and Japan and China, and he owns Epstein Island and blah, 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 like something like that. Is that where we're going?
we've every reason to believe that this information is true.
No, you don't.
And could be canceled for saying this, but we have a president right now sitting in the Oval Office who won because the Democrats, national security state, and the mainstream media rigged this election by deliberately suppressing the Hunter Biden laptop story.
No. These are the folks who believe the idea that 17% of Democrats would have voted for Trump had they known that Hunter Biden was a crack addict formerly, and that he had a cush job at Burisma, which he didn't. I mean, he was with 3 other investors who their job was to sit there and make sure the money that was invested by the investors was spent where it was supposed to be spent. Happens all the fucking time. You basically are a hall monitor. You get a fee to make sure that $1 billion doesn't evaporate, and it didn't. For the record, it's one of the reasons why Russia was so pissed off and why they attacked is because they were losing oil and gas revenue from Ukraine.
So the election claims that Americans have been making the past 2 years, Mayor, they could be true.
Well,
The election claims? Oh,
In the Oval Office, who won because the Democrats, national security state, and the mainstream media rigged this election by deliberately suppressing the Hunter Biden laptop story. So the election claims that Americans have been making the past 2 years, Mayor, they could be true.
yes, I'm an American, and I have been making claims about the election that Trump lost fair and square, and fuck him. Does that count? Am I an American too? She's not talking about me, is she?
well, first of all, I mean, the you don't have to get to did they steal the votes, the physical votes,
Yeah, you kind of do.
because they stole the election when they covered up the most relevant piece of information that ever emerged in an American election.
What? That there wasn't anything to the Hillary Clinton email scandal in 2016 when Comey came out and said there might still be something there? Or are we talking about Benghazi or some shit?
Which would reveal, by far, without any doubt, the biggest scandal on the part of an American presidential candidate or vice president.
Nonsense.
These were some of the biggest crimes that ever existed at the highest
Nonsense.
levels of our government and some of our allies.
So with
Also, like what? Name one. Don't just sit there and say the crimes of the century, crimey crimes of the criming criming. What? Fucking what? Say one. He met with this guy who now owns this because he gave him access to that, and other people wanted to buy that, but he couldn't buy that, and now he made billions of dollars because Joe Biden and the thing and the Hunter and the... Point it out. You've had all this data, all this fucking time, and you're sitting there like somebody who's like teasing before a break on a episode of 2020 of Dateline. Say it. Fuck me. Anything. Which one? Mayor of Moscow's wife? Get fucked. Rosemont Seneca invested $3 million for her. They kept a percentage of the profit she made because that's what they do. She got her money back and the rest of her investments back or continuing to grow or whatever the fuck. And now she's the richest woman in Moscow, or was. If she's still alive and if they haven't just scooped her up and murdered her now. Explain the crime. Unless you think just like capitalism's a crime. Go for it, kiddo.
with that being said, Mayor, has there been
No, with what being said? Nothing was said. The fuck? Ah, it's so aggravating. Say something.
any vindication on your part?
Many things, absolutely. Among people of good faith, almost everything I said has been vindicated.
No, it hasn't. You just said that the DNC of New York, the local Democratic Party of New York City, not even the state, is equal to ISIS, MS-13, and drug cartels. And that the Biden family is involved in criminal racketeering on the level that's bigger than all the mafia cases you ever... Do we have to just like scroll through pictures of dead gangsters on the streets of New York with their brains blown out, sitting in fucking cars in the 70s and 80s? What?
For all our viewers.
Oh my God. That's it. I've been vindicated. Cut. I'm dead serious. What did we see in this horseshit? What did we see in this back and forth between these two idiots right here, besides a picture of a laptop with God knows whose hand on it, with, and again, a Russian Cyrillic typewriter, keys on it, so you can type in English and Russian. Great. Which is, by the way, not the model Hunter was alleged to have had. And by the way, when Rudy Giuliani held up a laptop on Steven Crowder's show, which is the picture that everybody uses of him, and even Steven Crowder, still to this fucking day, still lies and says that Rudy held up Hunter Biden's laptop on his show, showed it, which is ridiculous. It's a lie. It's not even, the one that Rudy holds up is a fucking LG. It's not even the same model, much less the same year. For fuck's sake. He still says that lie. Just doesn't even bat a fucking eye. Just lies. Just lies about it. Says, yeah, Rudy showed it on the program. Yeah, he showed it. He showed it. Says it constantly. When he did no such thing. Showed a laptop. Wasn't the laptop. Wasn't even fucking close. Not the same model. Not the same year. Not the same owner. That's Rudy, for all we know, held up his ex-wife's laptop, which for some reason, during the divorce, he stole from her and hid behind the couch at his house. And the FBI found it when they showed up to get, they had a warrant to seize all his electronic communication devices. When Rudy was trying to pawn off copies of the 416 gig hard drive that he has from a computer that only holds 256 gigs of material. Where the incriminating emails are not in email form, but in PDF form. What the fuck are you talking about? But what did we see in this? This is an exclusive one-on-one with Mayor Giuliani. No longer a mayor, but not even a lawyer, I don't think, in most places. I don't know, maybe he's still got his right to practice in Florida. Do we know? Literally nothing came of this interview. Just a lot of assertions that the Biden family is somehow like bigger than the Gambino family and MS-13 and ISIS and the fucking Houthis in Yemen and Iran. By the way, you'll notice that in his list of criminals of the worst, he'll never bring up Vladimir Putin or Jeffrey Epstein. Now, of all the kind of worldwide criminals that exist, Vladimir Putin, someone who allegedly makes $146,000 a year on his state salary as the president of Russia, who has over $200 billion worth of wealth, would kind of be up on the list of the world's biggest criminals. Obvious to anyone who's even looking. And yet, Rudy, in the listing of the criminals, never brings him up. Would never even think to mention that Vladimir Putin is a kleptocratic fucker who steals from his own people and has gutted his country. Murdering oligarchs, by the way, and taking their money, too. And maybe that the Russian oligarchs that are accidentally running into their families with an axe before accidentally tripping and falling into a noose. Maybe that's why Rudy doesn't bring it up. Maybe. But he also doesn't bring up Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, if you're going to talk about international scumbags and people who were well-connected criminal masterminds, guys who used like blackmail and all kinds of financial leverage to do all kinds of awful for a very long fucking time, Epstein is kind of in the top of my list. Like, he's up there. He and Putin will always kind of jockey for that position. If you're excluding Kim Jong-un because he's the leader of a country like North Korea, and there's no out for him. Like, he can't even vacation. He can't really leave the country. He does on occasion, I suppose, and goes to some sympathetic countries to fuck around. But for the most part, he just stays there. But you notice how Rudy will never bring up Vladimir Putin and Jeffrey Epstein when talking about the kind of level of corruption. Even though the Bidens are supposedly the top of it all. They're worse than Putin. They're worse than Jeffrey Epstein. They're worse than the Gambino crime family and the fucking Gottis and all those fuckers and John Wayne Gacy and MS-13 and the Medellin cartel and ISIS. They're worse than all of those. Except Putin and Epstein. They're just not in the same category. That would be a good question for somebody to ask him. Compared to, who's worse, Jeffrey Epstein or Vladimir Putin? Watch the squirming. Oh my God. All right. So you're watching Housemarque's Mega Worldwide, and I appreciate it.